I've got this AI search. So again, that's really important when you're looking for things in content. And I've also got this JR AI-102 text. So that one is allowing you to be able to do Q&A and also language understanding. So rather than opting for the overarching AI service, I've created a specific. Turndek, what were you going to say?
Yeah, so my question is related to the PI data. So how that sensitive information will be get protected? Let's say credit card number or account number, some sensitive information.
So what do you mean, sorry? It will just find those and mask those, yeah.
So is it doing it by automatically or do we need to do some settings for that? So how that is achievable?
That one's automatic, so there's no customization required for that one. That pretty much will pick out, like things like person, phone number, like I was saying, credit card, and it will mask that out. Yeah, so that will happen.
Yeah, sometimes you're working with like claims data, insurance data, and like you got policy numbers and all other sensitive informations. If you want to hide them, want to send to AI, would that be doable or?
I think if you've got like a claim ID, that wouldn't, because it's not part of PII usually. It's mostly the things that actually make somebody personally identified to the organisation. So claim number necessarily may not give you, because it's just a generated number. But if their address was in there or they had a person's name in there, a phone number, email, then that would be, yeah. So if you wanted to go and make other things like sensitive information, you'd have to train your own one to do that. So that would be a custom text one. But
yeah, it just happen that I can say recognize these are my sensitive information.
Yeah, you'd have to
show them. Okay.
Yeah, you'd have to train it. So I think that one would be. You might even possibly use that as a customized. I can't think of how you would do that. But you could get it to identify entities. So if you had brought in a document and you wanted to use maybe document intelligence for that, that might be a better use of that, where you could actually identify, so you could say claim number is a sensitive piece of information, and you define that as a label, and then you'd go through your document. You'd have five to seven documents that you could train on that had that information in it, and then you would go and label that document. So you'd go into the document, your document intelligence, and you'd highlight where the on 5 to 7 of the documents where the actual invoice number was. So you just put you just highlighted it in the text. So when we do document intelligence on Thursday, you'll actually see we just highlight it and then tell it where it is in the document, and then it will learn what those numbers look like. And also it might be prefixed with claim number or something like that. So it might actually have a name of its own before it. So it could be even easier to work out. And then you would just train that, and then when you bring in the documents that it hasn't seen yet, you would run that inference set and it will pick that up, yeah. So you could do a use case separate, but all the main PII information is picked up in this one.
So like in that point number 3, it says that applying sensitive labels. How will you do it? Like the point number 3 on your screen, the bullet 3.
Yeah, applying sensitivity labels. So you would just do that. You'd label them normally as you would, and you would do that in document intelligence. So a sensitivity label you might have there, for example, is, for your eyes only or whatever it is, or top secret or whatever it is. Then you could actually say that if you find this information, label this as top secret, overarching classification for the document, and then you could do that as well. So yeah, or you can take it even further and do one for data science with machine learning as well as your machine learning. So it just depends how complex the use case is, I think. Yeah. All right. Any other questions associated with what you've seen there so far? That's good. All right, good questions. Okay, so I was just going to show you how to go and create the text one, and that's only really if you're doing something more complex. I'll show you why I say that. So if I go to create and I look at maybe I choose this over here, AI and machine learning. So this is something I didn't show you yesterday. There is a grouping of all the services. What we've been doing so far is AI services like that and searching for it that way. And then we click on AI services and that brings up a list like this. But what you can do is you can go to this section here and have a look at what we're looking for. For example, the language service. If I click on that one, just waiting for that, you'll notice here that it will tell you what it can do out of the box. And of course, that is also what your AI services multi-service can do as well. But what you want in particular is to do a couple of extra things. You want to be able to do custom questioning and answers. So that way you can bring in a document into your knowledge base and extract out Q&A. And of course, we said that's really good for maybe a productivity bot that you want to use internally or a PDS product disclosure statement that you want customers to be able to search for. So you would normally select that one. And also, there's another option where you can do text classification, so and custom text analytics. So this is where also you may want to do that sensitive information custom example that we talked about. So you can click that one as well. And then when you go to create it, what you'll notice is there's a lot more services being created here. So the first one is your service itself. So that's the text analytics one. So you might call that, remember I was talking about this before, I've actually just called that, something like text. And then with the pricing tier, I would stick to standard in the when you go and do the lab, because I think there is a bit of an issue when you go free for some of these. For example, the search doesn't work with Azure. Azure, was it OpenAI services, for example. So always go for the standard option. You can also see down here for the question answering, they're going to create a search service. That's an expensive one. So if you're going to have a look at this one, basic is actually about $88 a month. So I think this one goes up to about 300 and you've got a free tier. So again, this is not going to work with your Azure OpenAI. You need at least the basic tier to use that. So make sure to keep that in mind when you're doing that. And the other thing is it needs a storage account as well. So as you can see, this one is a lot more complicated cognitive search. We also have other cognitive services that have split training and prediction as well. So we'll see those in the labs. So again, it might be multiple services. So if I go back in here, I won't go through with that because I already created one this morning. And I look at that resource group. I've created them all the same. So you can see there's the search one it created. There's the text one it created. And I also, after the fact, I added on a bot as well. So this can be an internal application that you could use for your bot service as well. So you can, if you've created a Q&A, you can actually go on and it will create that for you as well. So, and the storage account was the other thing that got created during that. So again, depending on what your use case is, you might have different options here. So I wouldn't go with just the regular JRAI AI multi-service. I would use the specific text one. So with that in mind, let's have a look at the lab now. Oh, that was the other thing I was going to show you, just while we did have some demos available. So I'm just going to go into Language Studio. So remember I had this one from before. I've got to give you a list of all those as well. So this is the Language Studio that you'll be using today. And what you can come down here is go and have a look at some of the examples. So the fact that we don't have the API in anymore and be able to go directly to that, it's not the end of the world. I mean, we have the API. We just don't have that testing mechanism for the API anymore. But you can come in here and go and extract out PII, for example, and try that out. So you can even use these pre-canned examples. So you can see there, they've got a social security number there, they've got an address, and then when you go and run that, you'll actually see that it's picked up all this information. For example, the date, time, the person, the organisation, the person there as well. That one's person type, that one is. So you can see there also some key information that needs to be masked out. So, and then you can go in here and create projects for this as well. So it's already loaded my text. So I actually came up here when this was logged out. I logged in and I was able to then choose which service I wanted to use the first time around. So you can see there, it can pick some of the other ones. I even had a document intelligence one there as well. So that's why I got pinged on the first one, because I already had a free account. So it didn't let me create a second. All right, so that's a really good example. You can play with these ones as well. So you've got some emails examples there. You can run that. So the email is this, and you can pick up certain things as well. So some of the other ones, there's also some really good samples on GitHub that you can try out. So the studio has a lot of good information in it, and then you can go and get the SDK, and there you can see the Azure AI text analytics. And remember I said before, those examples for the APIs before used to be on version 3. I think it's in line with the SDK. I've got to double check that. You can see it's up to 5 now, so it's advanced quite a bit. What else have we got? So up here you can actually go to back to the language studio and try some other things out, like key phrases, linked entities, named entities. We can try that linked entity one. And I don't know whether this would work, but you can try a document here. I saw Mars shining in the sky. I don't know if that's going to work, but we could run that. And there you go. It's picked up the Wikipedia, the linked entity there for Mars, the planet. So that's that example I was showing you a little bit earlier. So I just thought I'd do a couple of extra demos in there. All right, let's have a look at the lab.
Confuse it? JK, try to confuse it?
Yeah.
Sometimes I know the Mars is yummy, something like that. So let's see what it does. And also that, both of them, add both of them.
Together, I'm not sure what it will do, but one at a time maybe just to start with. So I love Mars, and that's picked up Mars the god. So that was only a slight difference in the way that we said that. Mars is strong. We can try is strong. Mars is red.
Mars is yummy.
And yummy, yeah. So that one a little bit. Mars is yummy. Well, that one's a little bit off colour, but anyway, we'll see what it does. So it's picked up, what's it got there? Mars the planet. You can't tell from this because it's only got the short version. So Mars, it's picked up the planet. So it's the overarching one. It does get confused when you have multiple ones in the same. So if you try just the one, let's just see whether it can work that one out. And then click on that. So, oh, there you go. It's something completely different. So,
yeah, it's not consistent.
No, but you wouldn't expect it to be. It's just like prompting. If you put more information in there, and is my favourite thing to eat. Hopefully it'll pick up.
So try with lowercase y. Yeah, and yummy.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, because it's still picking up that one as yummy. No, it's still picking up still not working it out. So it's having a lot of trouble with that. So again, it does come down to So is that one picked up? Yeah, the candy bar. So I I think it does come down to a lot of context and very similar. If you want to try and work out some of these more ambiguous ones, you're going to have a lot more trouble with it. So yeah, entity linking is an
Yeah.
interesting one, definitely.
Because when in the real time text or documents, you have such a huge information in the documents, you cannot label everything. It's a huge task. And then that's why we rely on AI to work for us to identify the relevant piece of information. Uh, that's where if we have to proofread after it, it's like again a more work for us, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
is not hard, but to expect it as an outcome is kind of a meaningless. You have to rework everything.
yeah, yeah. So some of the things it does really well, the PII it does particularly good. And you expect that to be a lot better because no, you got more to lose there for these sorts of things. So yeah,
But
it does.
is there a
Yep.
way that in our code we could advise the AI to use some of our custom logic to give us a right output or ignore something? If this is the because we know the context of the document. Let's say if I'm providing AI like say 5 documents and I know the context what that document may consist of. If somebody has a random information or junk information in the document, just ignore it. Just don't give me some. Just give me relevant information from the document. Can we do that?
Um, you'd have to have a custom example again, but I think with documents it does a pretty good job of taking the 5 to 7 when you're training it. It does a much better job. This, if you can imagine, this is we've just picked something out of the air that is on the internet and not particularly worked out the semantic meaning of that well. So that's where what you would do is if you were doing it programmatically, then you would get the result, see what the confidence score was, and then decide because that confidence score might have been really low with that one, the previous one, the yummy one. I was very surprised by that because I haven't tested that for a while, and I suppose that's where you have a look at what the result is, and then if you're able to have a little bit of logic in there as well, you can do that. So that's where maybe it's looking at going back to the utterances and intents and using Lewis language understanding a little bit better there. So again, this is just one example. And like I said, if you are training it yourself, you're probably going to get a lot better outcome than this very generic example. Um, so you would want to be able to train that. And if you could train that well, then you might do a better job of this very generic example. So
Cool.
yeah,
Is there a lag when we do a training of a model because we're just using an API at the moment or using the existing services when we do a training a model?
yeah. So that's where that's a custom example. So when you had a look at that one there, you could come down and there was a custom named entity recognition and custom text analytics for health, for example. So there's some you just go in and do a custom example of that. That's where you would train it, correct it, fix it. So what you can do is, especially with language understanding, you can go in there and try and identify what you're talking about by saying what the intent it thinks it is. So turn on the light, book a overseas holiday. It would have to then determine what the intent is, so that it could go to the function to actually call that particular system that would then allow people to get a quote for booking airfare or whatever it is. So in those examples, you would have to definitely train it towards the utterances or looking at the utterances examples to then pick the intent. And then if it picks the wrong one, you can actually correct it while you're testing it and tell it, hey, you got that wrong. It actually should have been this. So part of the testing mechanism for language understanding, you can do that. And then you can override its reactions there as well. So that's some of the old tech. With AI, with large language models, it's going to be a different approach. You'll probably use fine tuning for that example. If you wanted a specific system that booked in air flights, you would probably use a fine tuned version of something like GPT 3.5 and then you take that as your base model, and then you fine tune it towards your use case. So again, that's using a different service, but yeah, you get the idea there.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's okay. So that's a little bit around there. We'll go into, we'll close all of these Wikipedia pages. Been searching quite a bit. So let's have a look at our lab for the day. This one you can do as many as you want. We'll try to fit in as much as possible. Now you will have a break at 10:30, so get about half hour in, and then have a break, and then you can do a little bit more as well, because the content's pretty light. For AI, it's all about doing the labs as the experience. So let's have a look. And as you can see, it's mostly, whenever you're looking at any of the AI, it's always what the JSON looks like coming in, what the JSON looks like as a response. So again, there's not, it can be a little bit daunting if you're not that keen on looking at JSON, because that's pretty much what the course has got. So I'll try to throw in there some examples as well and ask questions, definitely. All right, so where do we get to here? Yesterday we had a look at, we got kick-started with this one, get started with AI services. And then these were the three we did in the afternoon, which is analyze image with vision, read text and images, so that's if there's some words in the image. But of course, Omni does that really well now. So I would tend to use Omni for OCR to extract out text from an image. I think that does a very good job of it. So, and a lot less rigmarole setup. So I think that's probably the preference now. And then classify images, you would still use the technique either through the custom vision AI or the AI vision custom model. I know that's a very small fine line between those names. One is the old one with the hummingbird, one is the new AI vision that uses as your machine learning a Cocoa files. So if you see the word Cocoa files, you know you're using the new one. So today we're going to have a look at analysing text. And you can also do the create answer question answer, but I'll do a demo of that first before you get into that one. So let's launch analyze text. If you are new to the lab today, let me just go and grab the keys for you, keys to the county. So if you're new today, there is the lab information. And make sure to use your personal Microsoft account. When you get in there, you can redeem this code there. Looks like I need to sign in again. Jeez. Just take this off the screen because I sign in slightly different to you. I don't want to confuse you. It's a bit better. Yeah, I sign in using a different logon, so I use the corporate logon. That wouldn't work for all of you. All right, so once you get in there, I'll also give you the GitHub reference to all of this, because the instructions will give you the first lab, but then you'll have to go and look at the instructions for the other labs. So this is the language lab. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So if you come into the second one there, which is the IO version, it's got all the markdowns translated. So this is where you can go and try analyze text, maybe pick up something like extracting custom entities. If you want, go on to that. But after the break, we'll be looking at question answers. We'll be doing this lab, and I think one of the translation ones down here later on. But these are all the labs associated with today. So that's what that second instruction is. The reason I give you this is because you may, in the one lab session, want to be able to do multiple labs. So if you've got enough time left, it goes for an hour and a half. Oh, actually, no, they go for 3 hours, these ones. So you can pretty much go in there. Don't choose free, please choose standard. Otherwise, some things later on may not work, so just choose standard for that. It's not the end of the world. This one's a relatively easy one. You can see it's using this particular analytics pip install if you're using Python, otherwise .NET add package. And you can see it's getting you to put in a whole lot of code, getting the language, getting sentiment. So do all of those. I think it's probably worthwhile doing the whole thing. And there's a linked entity one there as well. So that one's good. But if you feel like you want to go on to something else, I don't think you'll have enough time, but you can try it out, is translate text. You can try that one out if you want, but later on we'll be doing that anyways. So I think we're pretty much covered. It's only if you want to do some of these custom ones later on, try those out, and some of these translation of speech, things like that. We'll do some of those later today. All right, so just this one for now. And hopefully, remember, just a couple of pointers for those that are new. Oh, yeah, Turndi.
For the resource, we need to create what setting, I think in the text it said we need to create a resource.
For this one, just follow the instructions. The only thing I recommended was instead of creating a free, just create a standard one. You will need those other settings for the later labs. So, for example, it'll say in the later labs how to create it, which is text. So the reason I said don't create free is because you may want to use it for other things later on. But it just depends how many labs you're going to do all at once. So that's the only change I would make for this one. If you go into the next one there, for example, let me just go and grab that one. So if you go into this question and answer one, for example, it will go through and it'll tell you to, again, that's, make sure you use standard there. And for this one, it doesn't look like it's telling you the one to use. Oh, what they're doing in this particular one is they're creating the project first and then going next, finish. I don't think that always works very well. Quite often is expecting a service to be there already. So with this one, when you get to the question answering one, make sure you go in and choose the language option. So that was, instead of creating an overarching cognitive service, but this is coming later anyway, I'll remind you again later, go and create.
It gives us an option to do everything in one go, I think so.
Yeah, but it can quite often become derailed if you go to create it all in one go. I've noticed it doesn't always work 100%. I don't know whether it's who you're logged on as, or you can try it by the books, but so go by the instruction. But my general feeling is you would go back into Azure and create the service in there like I showed you with the text analytics one. So yeah, that one that you put up on the page there. So that's usually what I would use. Not for the first one, you don't need it for the first lab, but you definitely need it for the question and answer lab. Definitely. Yeah, good one.
So that is how I followed the prompts in the training material to create a resource and then select language services.
Yep. Okay, cool. So sometimes it actually gets you to create it while you're in the project, but and I find that never works really well. So that's okay if you want to give it a go. And but I find it more often than not, I end up going back and creating it and then creating the project. So it looks like you're on the right track there anyway. But that's the second lab. The first lab is fine. You can just go through and do detect language, blah, 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 blah. All of this will work in that standard service anyway. All right, so have fun with that one. We've got about half an hour, not quite half an hour, to the break. So is anyone having any issues with the lab? We'll just set up a timer so you've got that information. and then we'll continue the lab. If you're still working on it, continue your lab after the break as well.
Right, so can you come into my session, please?
Yeah, sure. Right, let me come in there. So I've got a few people in. Just checking in with me. Are you okay to log in? This will be the first time you log on as well. So just yell out if you get stuck.
Yeah, I'm just going to try now because I stepped out a bit.
Okay, that's all right. All right, Turindip, I'm just coming into your session now. All right, so your login is unknown on the selected storage account. So, yeah. So for the first one, you'll have to definitely just use the standard account because the policy's probably been enacted to stop you from creating the non-language service, I think. So for that one, don't select all those other things. So if you go back, create a resource. Don't select the question and answer because what it will do is it's only wanting you to do analysis for this one. So that second one, question and answering lab, you definitely want to use that. So you can use the language service there, that's okay, one that you had at the top, but don't choose these two options. Yeah, do that for the next lab, definitely.
But for the next lab, will I be able to have access? Like for the because the next session, when they launch the lab, it will have the access.
It should because it's a different launch session. So you, when you launch that second one, it'll have different policies applied to it. So hopefully that will be fine. And I would just choose the question and answer. I wouldn't even do the second one. I just do the first one. So I was showing the whole one with everything in it. All right, cool. Now, yeah, you can probably choose the S for that. So otherwise, let's try it out because I don't know what policies they've actually applied to restrict this. So just you have to hit the agree screen on that basic page there. So no, yep. So okay, keep going. Looks like changes. Yep. Okay. All right. Keep going. Yep. Just next finish for that. And hopefully that one will work okay. That's definitely the next save. You really need to do that. So we'll keep our eye peeled for that one just to see whether it has problems. And when you go to choose that other one, don't choose the second option. Just choose the question and answer one. That looks okay.
Yep.
And it looks like it's going to be all right there. So it's submitting the deployment. Looks good.
Yep.
All right, it hasn't got an error there, so that's good. Excellent.
Proceed. Thank you.
Okay. But for the second one, you'll be choosing more options. So we'll just stick to the instructions for now and try not preempt, which is what I was trying to do, just to try to save you a bit of rework there. But it looks like it's working okay. All right, I'll go on mute. If you need me, just grab me.